Listen to me carefully. There are people in this world who don't just want to leave your life, they want to see what happens after they leave. They want to see if you'll fall apart. They want to see if you'll lose your confidence. They want to see if you'll start questioning your worth. They want to see if you'll spend your nights crying, your days waiting, and your future standing still because they're no longer around. And if you're not careful, you'll give them exactly what they're expecting. You'll hand over your power without even realizing it. You'll spend weeks checking your phone. You'll replay conversations over and over in your mind. You'll wonder why they changed. You'll wonder what you did wrong. You'll wonder why someone who once seemed so interested suddenly became so distant. But let me tell you something that might change the way you look at this entire situation. The moment you start chasing someone who is determined to walk away, you stop chasing your own future. The moment you make another person responsible for your happiness, you give them control over your peace. And the moment you start believing that their rejection defines your value, you forget who you were long before they ever entered your life. See, life has a funny way of teaching us lessons. Sometimes the lesson isn't about how to keep someone. Sometimes the lesson is about learning how not to lose yourself trying to keep them. Because the truth is, real strength isn't found when everything is going your way. Real strength shows up when your heart is hurting, your emotions are running high, and every part of you wants to react. But you choose dignity instead. You choose self-respect instead. You choose growth instead. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's not about acting cold. It's not about playing games. If you're hurt, you're hurt. If you're disappointed, you're disappointed. You're human. But there's a difference between feeling pain and letting pain control your life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because somewhere out there, somebody is expecting you to break. Somebody is expecting you to beg. Somebody is expecting you to prove that you can't move forward without them. And today I'm going to show you why the most powerful thing you can do is the exact opposite. I'm going to show you why your silence can be stronger than an argument, why your self-respect can be stronger than your emotions, why your growth can speak louder than your pain, and why the person who refuses to collapse under pressure becomes impossible to defeat. So if you've been feeling rejected, if you've been feeling overlooked, if you've been wondering why someone stopped appreciating everything you brought to the table, stay with me. Because by the end of this message, you'll understand something powerful. Your greatest victory isn't making someone regret losing you. Your greatest victory is becoming so strong, so confident, and so focused on your own purpose that their decision no longer has the power to control your happiness. And when that happens, you don't just heal, you rise. Let's talk about it. One of the most important truths you will ever learn in relationships is that not every person is looking for your love. Sometimes they're looking for your reaction. They want to know whether they still have access to your emotions. They want to know whether they can still influence your mood, your confidence, and your peace of mind. And if you don't understand this, you can end up giving away your power without even realizing it. Think about how many people spend days, weeks, or even months obsessing over a text message that never came. They stare at their phone, wondering why he hasn't called. They replay conversations in their mind. They analyze every word, every pause, every moment. Meanwhile, the other person may be going about their day completely unaffected. The emotional energy is flowing in one direction, and that's what creates the imbalance. The reality is that some people expect you to react. They expect you to send that long emotional message explaining how hurt you are. They expect you to call repeatedly when they pull away. They expect you to chase them when they become distant. Why? Because every reaction confirms something they want to believe, that they still have power over you. Now let me be clear. This isn't about becoming cold or pretending you don't have feelings. You are human. You're supposed to feel disappointment. You're supposed to feel hurt when someone you care about lets you down. The goal isn't to eliminate emotions. The goal is to stop allowing those emotions to control your actions. There is a big difference between feeling something and reacting to everything. Emotion says, I need to text him right now. Wisdom says, give yourself time before you respond. Emotion says, I need him to explain why he changed. Wisdom says, his actions are already giving me an answer. Emotion says, I can't stand this silence. Wisdom says, silence often reveals what words try to hide. The strongest people are not those who never feel emotional pain. The strongest people are those who can sit with their emotions without allowing them to make decisions they will later regret. You see, when someone knows exactly how to trigger you, they often don't need to do much. Sometimes all they have to do is disappear for a few days. Sometimes all they have to do is stop giving attention. Sometimes all they have to do is become inconsistent. Then they sit back and watch. They watch to see whether you'll panic. They watch to see whether you'll chase. They watch to see whether you'll abandon your own standards just to keep them in your life. And here's the danger. The more you react, the more control you hand over. Every desperate message says, my peace depends on your response. Every emotional outburst says, you have the ability to shake my entire world. Every act of chasing says, I'm willing to forget my value if it means keeping your attention. But the moment you stop reacting impulsively, something powerful happens. You begin to reclaim your emotional independence. You begin to realize that your happiness doesn't have to rise and fall based on another person's behavior. You begin to understand that your self-worth is not something another person can give you or take away. That's when real confidence starts to develop. Confidence isn't loud. Confidence doesn't need to prove itself. Confidence doesn't beg for reassurance every 5 minutes. Confidence is the quiet belief that no matter what another person chooses to do, you will be okay. And when you reach that point, people notice. The person who expected you to break notices. The person who expected you to chase notices. The person who thought they could control your emotions notices. Because suddenly, you're no longer reacting the way they expected. Instead of falling apart, you're focusing on yourself. Instead of begging for attention, you're investing in your growth. Instead of constantly checking whether they care, you're making sure you care about yourself. That's a completely different energy. And here's something many people don't realize. Your calmness can be more powerful than any argument you'll ever make. When someone is expecting drama and you give them peace, it unsettles them. When someone is expecting desperation and you give them dignity, it surprises them. When someone is expecting emotional chaos and you respond with self-respect, it changes the entire dynamic. Not because you're trying to manipulate them, not because you're playing games, but because you finally realize that your emotional well-being is too valuable to place in someone else's hands. At the end of the day, every relationship teaches you something. Some relationships teach you trust. Some teach you patience. Some teach you love. And some teach you the importance of protecting your peace. If someone is waiting for you to break, don't make their prediction come true. Don't give them the reaction they're expecting. Don't hand over the power they are hoping to keep. Take a breath, stand tall. Focus on your purpose. Focus on your growth. Focus on building a life that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. Because the greatest victory isn't making someone regret what they did to you. The greatest victory is reaching a place where their actions no longer have the power to define your happiness. And when you get there, you've already won. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about strength is that they think strength is loud. They think strength means proving a point, winning every argument, getting the last word, or making sure everyone knows how much they've been hurt. But true emotional strength rarely looks dramatic. In fact, some of the strongest moments in a person's life happen in complete silence. When someone disappoints you, ignores you, rejects you, or walks away from you, there's an immediate emotional reaction that takes place inside. Your heart races. Your mind fills with questions. You want answers. You want explanations. You want justice. Most of all, you want relief from the pain. And that's where many people make a mistake. They believe that expressing every emotion immediately will make them feel better. So they send the angry message. They make the emotional phone call. They write paragraphs explaining their pain. They demand explanations from someone who has already shown through their actions that they aren't willing to provide the answers being sought. But here's what life teaches over and over again. Emotional drama rarely creates emotional healing. Think about it. How many times have you reacted emotionally and later wished you had stayed calm? How many times have you sent a message in frustration only to reread it later and feel embarrassed? How many times have you given someone access to your deepest emotions, hoping they would finally understand, only to realize they still didn't change? The truth is, emotional outbursts may provide temporary relief, but they rarely create lasting solutions. Real strength is different. Real strength is feeling disappointed, but choosing not to let disappointment control your behavior. Real strength is feeling rejected without rejecting yourself. Real strength is being hurt without becoming bitter. Real strength is maintaining your dignity even when someone else fails to respect it. That's what emotional maturity looks like. The world often celebrates dramatic reactions because they get attention. Social media rewards emotional displays. Movies make grand confrontations look powerful. Television convinces people that every conflict needs a dramatic ending. But real life doesn't work that way. In real life, the people who thrive are often the people who learn how to manage their emotions instead of being managed by them. Imagine two people going through the exact same heartbreak. The first person spends every day obsessing over what happened. They constantly check social media. They analyze every detail. They tell the same painful story over and over. Their entire focus remains fixed on the person who hurt them. The second person feels the same pain. They cry, they grieve, they acknowledge their emotions, but then they begin focusing on healing. They exercise, they work on their goals, they strengthen their mindset, they reconnect with themselves. Months later, who do you think is in a better position? The person who stayed trapped in emotional chaos, or the person who used pain as fuel for growth? The answer is obvious. Pain itself doesn't determine your future. Your response to pain does. And that's why emotional discipline is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Now, emotional discipline doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean pretending everything is okay when it isn't. It doesn't mean becoming cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. It means creating space between what you feel and what you do. It means recognizing that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent leaders. You may feel anger today. You may feel sadness tomorrow. You may feel loneliness next week. But none of those emotions should be given complete authority over your decisions. Because emotions change, your character should remain steady. One of the most attractive qualities any person can possess is emotional stability. Not perfection, not constant happiness, stability. The ability to remain grounded when circumstances become difficult. The ability to remain respectful when others become disrespectful. The ability to remain focused when distractions appear. The ability to remain confident even when external validation disappears. That kind of strength cannot be faked. It comes from within. And here's something many people never realize until much later in life. Calmness is a form of power. When someone expects you to argue and you remain composed, that's power. When someone expects you to beg and you maintain your dignity, that's power. When someone expects you to fall apart and you continue moving forward, that's power. Not because you're trying to prove something to them, but because you've stopped allowing their behavior to dictate your emotional state. The people who have the greatest influence over their lives understand this principle. They understand that every reaction is a choice. Every response is a decision. Every moment presents an opportunity to either strengthen their peace or surrender it. And they choose wisely because they know that protecting their peace is more important than winning an argument. Protecting their self-respect is more important than getting temporary attention. Protecting their future is more important than dwelling on a painful past. The reality is that life will test your emotions repeatedly. There will always be people who disappoint you. There will always be situations you cannot control. There will always be moments that challenge your patience and your confidence. But your greatest advantage will never be your ability to control other people. Your greatest advantage will be your ability to control yourself. That's where true strength lives, not in emotional explosions, not in dramatic confrontations, not in desperate attempts to be understood by people who refuse to listen. True strength lives in the person who can walk through pain without losing their character, the person who can face rejection without losing their confidence, the person who can experience heartbreak without losing their belief in a better future. Because at the end of the day, emotional drama may attract attention for a moment, but emotional strength builds a life. And long after the emotions settle, long after the disappointment fades, and long after the people who hurt you become a distant memory, it will be your strength, not your drama, that carries you forward into the next chapter of your life. One of the most dangerous lies people begin to believe after rejection is this: if someone didn't choose me, there must be something wrong with me. It's a thought that quietly slips into the mind after a breakup, after being ignored, after being taken for granted, or after watching someone walk away without appreciating everything you brought into their life. And if you're not careful, that lie can slowly become the lens through which you see yourself. But here's what you need to understand. Someone's inability to recognize your value is not proof that you have no value. Read that again. Just because one person failed to appreciate you does not mean you were unworthy of appreciation. Just because one person overlooked your kindness does not mean your kindness wasn't valuable. Just because one person walked away does not mean you weren't worth staying for. Too many people allow another person's decision to become a verdict on their identity. A relationship ends, and suddenly they question their beauty. Someone loses interest, and suddenly they question their intelligence. Someone becomes distant, and suddenly they question their worth. But think about how unfair that is. You're allowing one person's opinion, one person's behavior, or one person's choices to determine how you see yourself. You're handing over the responsibility of defining your value to someone who may not even understand their own value. The truth is, people reject things for many reasons. Sometimes it's immaturity. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's poor judgment. Sometimes it's bad timing. Sometimes it's emotional unavailability. And sometimes people simply don't recognize what they have until it's gone. None of those reasons automatically mean there's something wrong with you. Imagine placing a diamond in the hands of someone who knows nothing about gemstones. They might glance at it and think it's just another rock. They may fail to recognize its rarity. They may fail to understand its worth. They may even toss it aside without a second thought. Did the diamond lose its value? Of course not. The value remained exactly the same. The problem wasn't the diamond. The problem was the person's inability to recognize what they were holding. The same principle applies to people. Your value doesn't disappear because someone failed to see it. Your value doesn't shrink because someone walked away. Your value doesn't decrease because someone chose not to appreciate your presence. Your value is not determined by another person's awareness. It exists whether they recognize it or not. Unfortunately, many people spend years trying to convince others to see what should never have required convincing in the first place. They over-explain, they overgive, they over-sacrifice, they overcompensate. They keep thinking, if I just love harder, maybe they'll finally appreciate me. If I just do more, maybe they'll finally see my worth. If I just become everything they want, maybe they'll choose me. But that's a losing game, because the moment you begin proving your worth to someone, you've already forgotten it yourself. People who truly understand their value don't spend their lives auditioning for acceptance. They don't chase validation from people who consistently withhold it. They don't beg to be appreciated. They simply recognize that not everyone is capable of recognizing what they bring to the table, and that's okay. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in life is moving from a mindset of why wasn't I enough to why did I believe I had to prove I was enough? That's a completely different question. The first question creates insecurity. The second question creates self-awareness. You see, confidence isn't believing that everyone will love you. Confidence is knowing you'll be okay even when some people don't. Confidence is understanding that rejection is a normal part of life, not a reflection of your identity. Every successful person has been rejected. Every confident person has been overlooked. Every strong person has experienced disappointment. The difference is that they didn't allow those experiences to define them. They understood that rejection is an event, not an identity. It's something that happened. It's not who they are. And when you truly understand that, you stop taking everything so personally. You stop viewing every disappointment as evidence of inadequacy. You stop interpreting every ending as proof that you failed. Instead, you begin seeing life through a healthier perspective. You begin realizing that not every connection is meant to last. Not every person is meant to stay. Not every relationship is meant to become permanent. Some people enter your life to teach you lessons. Some enter your life to reveal your standards. Some enter your life to show you what you deserve and what you should never tolerate again. And sometimes the people who leave create space for the people who belong. That's why it's so important not to build your self-worth around another person's approval. Approval is unpredictable. People change, feelings change, circumstances change. If your confidence depends on external validation, your confidence will constantly be at risk. But when your confidence is rooted in self-respect, everything changes. You know who you are. You know what you bring to the table. You know your strengths. You know your values. You know your character. And because of that, another person's inability to appreciate you becomes disappointing, but not devastating. You no longer collapse every time someone fails to choose you, because you've already chosen yourself. That's the key. The goal isn't getting everyone else to see your worth. The goal is seeing it yourself so clearly that you stop needing constant confirmation from others. Because the moment you understand your value, you stop chasing people who don't. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into places where you don't belong. You stop settling for crumbs when you deserve consistency. And you stop measuring your worth by the opinions of people who never had the power to define it in the first place. Your value was never created by their attention. It was never increased by their approval. And it will never be destroyed by their rejection. The right people won't need endless convincing to appreciate who you are. They'll recognize your character. They'll respect your presence. They'll value your heart. And until those people arrive, never forget this truth. A person's failure to recognize your worth does not mean you have none. It simply means they lack the vision to see what was standing right in front of them. And that's their limitation, not yours. There comes a moment in every person's life when they face a choice after being hurt. It's not a choice about what happened, because the past cannot be changed. It's not a choice about another person's behavior, because you cannot control what someone else decides to do. The real choice is this: will you allow your pain to define you, or will you allow it to develop you? That decision changes everything. Most people become trapped because they focus all of their energy on the person who hurt them. They replay conversations. They revisit old memories. They imagine different outcomes. They wonder what they could have said differently. They wonder whether the relationship could have been saved. They spend so much time looking backward that they completely lose sight of what is waiting ahead. But growth begins the moment you shift your focus. Instead of asking, how do I get him back? You begin asking, how do I get myself back? That's where healing starts. Because let's be honest, sometimes the greatest loss after heartbreak isn't losing the other person. It's losing yourself in the process. You stop doing the things you love. You stop pursuing your goals. You stop investing in your dreams. You stop prioritizing your happiness. Little by little, your life begins revolving around someone else's choices. And before you know it, you've forgotten who you were before they entered your life. That's why personal growth is so powerful. Personal growth reconnects you with yourself. It reminds you that your identity is bigger than any relationship. It reminds you that your purpose is bigger than any disappointment. It reminds you that your future is bigger than your current pain. Now, growth isn't always exciting. In fact, most growth happens when nobody is watching. It happens during the mornings when you choose discipline instead of giving in to sadness. It happens during the evenings when you resist the urge to revisit old wounds. It happens during the quiet moments when you choose self-improvement over self-pity. These small decisions may seem insignificant at first, but over time they completely transform your life. Think about a person who spends every day obsessing over someone who left. A year passes. They're still talking about the same heartbreak. They're still waiting for closure. They're still hoping for validation. Now think about another person who experiences the same heartbreak but decides to grow. They start reading. They start exercising. They learn new skills. They improve their confidence. They build stronger friendships. They pursue goals that once seemed impossible. A year later, they're no longer the same person. The pain became fuel. The disappointment became motivation. The setback became a turning point. That's the power of growth. Growth doesn't erase pain, it transforms it. And one of the most beautiful things about personal growth is that it shifts your focus from what you've lost to what you're becoming. You stop waking up every day asking why someone didn't choose you. You start waking up every day asking how you can become a better version of yourself. That's a completely different mindset, and it creates completely different results. You see, when people get hurt, they often make the mistake of believing that healing means finding someone new as quickly as possible. But healing isn't about replacing one person with another. Healing is about rebuilding your relationship with yourself. It's about learning to enjoy your own company again. It's about rediscovering your confidence. It's about remembering your strengths. It's about reconnecting with the dreams and ambitions that may have been neglected along the way. Because when your entire focus is on finding someone else, you remain dependent on external circumstances for happiness. But when your focus shifts toward personal growth, something incredible happens. You become your own source of stability. You become your own source of encouragement. You become your own source of confidence. And that kind of inner strength changes everything. The truth is, there's nothing more attractive than a person who is actively growing. Not because they're perfect, not because they have all the answers, but because they are moving forward. They're learning, they're evolving, they're becoming stronger than they were yesterday. And here's something many people don't realize. The greatest revenge is not making someone suffer. The greatest revenge is refusing to let their actions stop your progress. Think about that. Anyone can stay stuck in resentment. Anyone can spend years replaying old hurts. Anyone can allow disappointment to become an excuse for stagnation. But it takes courage to keep growing after being hurt. It takes courage to believe in your future after experiencing rejection. It takes courage to continue trusting yourself after being disappointed. And courage is what separates those who stay trapped from those who move forward. There will be days when growth feels slow. There will be days when you miss the person. There will be days when old memories return unexpectedly. That's normal. Healing is not a straight line. Progress is not always obvious. Some days will feel easier than others. But what matters is that you keep moving. One step, one decision, one improvement at a time. Because every day you choose growth over bitterness, you're investing in a future version of yourself who will thank you. A stronger version, a wiser version, a more confident version. A version of yourself that no longer needs validation from people who couldn't appreciate your value. One day, you'll look back and realize that the experience you once thought would destroy you actually transformed you. The heartbreak made you stronger. The disappointment made you wiser. The rejection made you more self-aware. The struggle revealed strengths you never knew you possessed. And that's why growth is always the best